Hey everybody, today on Northern Revolutions, we're going to take a look at some greatest hits albums. So stay tuned. Hey Vine community, welcome to Northern Revolutions. I'm Rob. Welcome back if you're returning. Welcome if you're new. Today I want to do a video for my pal Mike at MGK Boston. He's doing he's got a thread going on that he's calling 12 plus 1, 13 greatest hits. It's an interesting idea. I've never thought of myself as a person that buys a lot of greatest hits records till I saw Mike's video and I took a look through my collection. I've got a fair amount on vinyl, I've got a bunch on CD, surprisingly, a lot more than I expected. So all Mike wants us to do is show you some greatest hits records. So I'm going to go through some of mine. I pulled 13 of them kind of at random. Not going to show them in any particular order. So here we go. Okay, the first one I pulled is the Supremes' Greatest Hits. This came out in 1967. My dad was a big fan of the Supremes. He was a big fan of Motown. He was a big fan of those girl groups. And I remember the Supremes and the Shirelles and the Crystals and all that kind of stuff playing a lot when I was a kid. So I bought this. As I said, I don't normally buy greatest hits records, but I don't need a bunch of Supremes albums when all I want to hear are the hits, to be quite honest. So the Supremes' greatest hits. Next up is Legend, the best of Bob Marley. I bought this a little while ago when I was doing a record shop downtown Toronto with a couple other members of the vinyl community, and I saw this. My wife has this on vinyl and on CD, and my wife and son play this all the time. I was never a big Bob Marley fan. Not that I didn't like his music, it just didn't really click with me. But being around them playing it all the time, it sort of grew on me, and now I quite like this record. So when I saw it in the used bin, I had to add it to my collection. Next up is the greatest hits of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. This came out in 2012 and was actually my first Joan Jett record. Obviously, I knew of Joan Jett, but I didn't own anything by her. And this was the first one. And I mean, it's obviously has everything on it. Else it wouldn't be a greatest hits. But I like it so much that now I have a ton of Joan Jett records. So this was my gateway into discovering Joan Jett. Some of my greatest hits records I've bought because I don't need a bunch of studio albums by that particular band or artist. I just want their hits. Other greatest hits albums I have because I'm a completist, and this falls into that category. This is the Beatles' One. This is their greatest hits that originally came out in I think like 2003. I have that pressing, and then this is the 2016 remaster. It's a different mix, so that's why I picked this up. I need to get a new copy of this. I bought this off of someone on Marketplace, and the first disc is unplayable because there's a defect in it. So I'm just hanging on to this till I eventually decide to pop for a new one. But for anyone who wants to have all the Beatles hits, this is it. This is their 27 songs that reached number one. Think about that. 27 songs that reached number one. Incredible. The next one is an artist that I love, that I've loved even longer than the Beatles. I have many albums by them, but I'm certainly not a completist because he has so many. Elvis Presley. This is Elvis One. Again, like Beatles One, this is all of his songs that went to number one. It also has the remix of A Little Less Conversation, which went on to become a big hit. I think it was in a Disney movie. Anyway, Elvis One is phenomenal. It's career spanning from early cool Elvis to Fat Diamond Studded Elvis, and I love all of it. This might be my favorite greatest hits package. This next artist is someone I've talked about many times on my channel. I consider her to be the greatest female singer ever, Linda Ronstadt. This is her first greatest hits, which goes up until like the late 70s. There's another version looks similar to this that's blue and has a different picture in the middle, which does her late 70s, early 80s hits. I need to get that one as well because it's got Tumbling Dice, which is my favorite song of all time. But this is the early hits from her, which every one of these is absolutely phenomenal. I gotta get volume 2 though. The next one is a band that I love. They're popular. They were popular in Canada, not so much in the US. It's a band called Trooper. I've sort of likened them to Canada's Cheap Trick. Pretty fair assessment. I've shown one of their albums before. This is their greatest hits called Hot Shots. They only had one big hit in the US, which was Raise a Little Hell, but the rest of these that are on here were just absolute bangers on Canadian radio, like Boys in the Bright White Sports Car, General Hand Grenade, Two for the Show, Santa Maria, We're Here for a Good Time. Every one of these are amazing. They had a ton of radio hits in Canada, but unfortunately only one that made it anywhere in the US. So Trooper, Hot Shots. You can find this in every dollar bin at every record show. The next greatest hits I want to show is a twofer. It's a volume 1, volume 2. The Best of the Beach Boys volume 1, followed by The Best of the Beach Boys volume 2. These came out in mid 60s. I'm not sure the exact date. I like the Beach Boys a lot. Obviously, I like their early stuff when Brian was still, actively with the band. And these are both original stereo pressings from when they were issued first in the mid 60s or whatever. And both of these copies belong to my dad, and his name is, he wrote up in the corner of these. So I have them because I like the Beach Boys, but also because these are my dad's. So he was my hero, and I love that there's parts of his record collection still hanging around in mine. So Best of the Beach Boys volume 1 and 2. I should also mention I have this framed on my wall that's signed by Mike Love and Al Jardine. I didn't meet them. I bought it. It's authenticated and certified, but anyway, I have an autographed copy of this as well. The next band, there's a couple ways I could have gone for their greatest hits, if you will. U2. This is U2 18 Singles. This is a compilation that came out in 2006, and as the title alludes to, 18 of their singles are on here. They also did a best of 1980 to 1990 and a best of 1990 to 2000, the gold and silver albums. I do have those as well. Those are greatest hits for the first 20 years of their career. This takes you up to almost, the end of the aughts. So I chose this as my U2 greatest hits because it is. I mean, everything that's on here was a hit. And then there were 2 new songs on here. So U2, 18 Singles. This is the greatest hits that was given to me. This is Creedence Clearwater Revival. I'm a big CCR fan. The greatest hits that most people know is their Chronicle, is what that one's called. This was put out on Polydor. I think this was probably one of those, phone in, order it off TV in the 80s or whatever. But somebody gave me this back in the early 90s when I was young and getting into music. And I've had it ever since. It's 3 records, and it does have all of the hits on it. So Creedence. I don't actually have Creedence Chronicle, which is their official greatest hits, which I should get one of these days. Not that I need to have all their studio albums as well, but Creedence. Another Canadian band that is wonderful and did have success in the United States. This is the Guess Who from Winnipeg. This is their best of the Guess Who. This is actually volume 1. This is the better of the 2 because this is the period when Randy Bachman was still with the band before he left to found BTO. It's got, American Woman on here was the big one, but fantastic greatest hits album. The volume 2 is pretty good. Burton Cummings is a great singer-songwriter, but that band was better when it was Cummings and Bachman. So even though it doesn't say Volume 1, this is what this one is. Volume 1 of The Guess Who. And last, but certainly not least, no discussion of greatest hits would be complete without showing the Eagles. Their greatest hits, 71 to 75. This, for those that don't know, is not only the greatest selling greatest hits of all time, it's one of the greatest selling albums of all time, period. It's spent like 250 weeks in the Billboard charts. It is 38 times platinum, more than any other album ever. I don't know that I've listened to this very much, actually, because I have all their studio albums, but believe it or not, this was before Hotel California, so that's the song the Eagles are most known for, but this album was prior to them recording that. So, it's became the greatest selling album of all time without their greatest hit on it. Strange. Anyway, the Eagles, greatest hits, 71 to 75. There you go, folks. There's just a look at some greatest hits albums. I'm surprised that I had as many as I did, because like I said, I generally don't buy greatest hits, but that was a fun little exercise. For those that haven't seen, please check out the video that started this thread. Go see Mike over at MGK Boston. I'll leave a link in the description. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Catch you on the flip side.